Hello and welcome to this video series on Enterprise Portal in Microsoft Dynamics AX 2012. My name is Anis Ansari and I'm a program manager on the Enterprise Portal team. In this video, we will see how Enterprise Portal makes it really simple and easy to debug code. In the current release, we have added a developer installation type to help you quickly set up a development machine for debugging. We will also be seeing the settings and processes required to debug both managed and X++ code in Enterprise Portal. The first thing I want to show you is that we now have a developer installation type. So when you're installing the client in AX 2012, you will see this dialog where you can select the installation type. Make sure you select developer if you are setting up a development machine. What this will do is it will enable all the settings required for a debugging environment automatically for you. If you do not select the developer installation type, you can still make the changes yourself manually, and I will be showing that to you shortly, but this is a great way to get quickly started with the development installation. The next thing you want to do is make sure that your Business Connector proxy account is a part of the AX Debugging Users group. So go to Administrator Tools, Computer Management. In here you will see a Local Users and Groups node, and inside there go to Groups. Here there's a Microsoft Dynamics AX Debugging Users. When you can right click, you can see Properties, you can see the members. Make sure that your Business Connector proxy account appears in here. If it is not in here, then add it in here. You need to do that to be able to successfully debug in Microsoft Dynamics AX. Let's see how you can debug managed user controls in Enterprise Portal. This is the rentals list page. I can click on a link to view the details about that rental. Let's assume that this is the user control that we want to debug. The first thing you want to make sure is in your web config for your SharePoint site, you have debug set to true in the compilation tag. So your web config, you can find it usually at inetpub, wwwroot, wss, virtual directories, and then the port number. In my case, it's installed on the default port 80. If you have installed on a different port, this number would be different. So open up the web config and look for debug. Here you can see that in the compilation tag my debug is set to true, so I'm all set. If this is set to false, change it to true. And again, as a reminder, if you install in developer mode, all these settings are automatically taken care of for you. If you have not installed in developer mode, then this is something you would want to come and change. Once you've ensured that debug is set to true, you want to start Visual Studio. If you're running already with admin privileges, then it's fine, but if you are not, then you want to right click on this and say run as administrator, or open up Visual Studio with admin privileges from the command line using run as. Now open up your solution, your EP web application project. Once this project is loaded, if you already have your user control in the project, then you can open it up. You can open up the code behind. If not, then you can add the web control, and I'll show you that. So here the assumption is the control that I want to debug is not in here in this project. So I will use the Application Explorer. I will navigate to the control. And this is the control that I want to debug. So I'm going to right click on it, select Add to Project, and this will add the control to my project. Here it is, and I'm going to open up the code behind for that control. Let's say I want to start debugging in the page load event, so I'm going to set up a breakpoint there. Next, you want to attach to the IIS worker process that Enterprise Portal is running in. So go to your debug menu, select Attach to Process. In this dialog, a few things that you need to make sure is make sure you have show processes from all users and show processes in all sessions selected. This will show you a list of all the processes, not just a subset of them. And in your attach to dialog here, make sure that it's set to manage 2.0, 1.1 and 1.0. So if it is not, if it is set to native or 4.0, you want to switch to this one. Once these two settings are done, look for the W3WP process. Here I have multiple processes running, and since I don't know which particular process Enterprise Portal is running in, I'm just going to select all of them and attach to all of them. If everything goes fine, you will see this breakpoint get enabled like that, and now you're ready to debug. So go back to your user control. You can either right click on this page and say refresh, or close it and open it up again. Once the page loads, you see the breakpoint was hit, and I can continue debugging this control just as I would any other thing in Visual Studio. Let's see how you can debug X++ code in Enterprise Portal. Again, here's the list page for the rentals. I can open up a rental to see the details. If you remember, in one of the videos, we added functionality to display the total for the rental, and for this we were using proxies. So going back to Visual Studio, here's the call to the methods defined on the FM rental helper class. Get total is the method, and the other method is get tax rate. These two methods are defined in X++, and FM rental is an X++ class that we are accessing through proxies. Let's see how we can debug these two methods, get total and get tax rate. So the first thing you need to make sure to debug X++ code are the settings. So first go to Administrative Tools and open up AX 2012 Server Configuration. In this, I've used developer install for this, so that's why all the right settings like enable breakpoints to debug X++ code, enable global breakpoints, it's already set for me. But if you did not use developer install, then you can always do create configuration, call it something like debug, and you can check these if they are not checked by default. So make sure that these two breakpoints are checked. Once that is done, you will hit apply, and this will restart AOS. It will say, do you want to start? You should restart AOS for the changes to take effect. So I'm going to hit yes, and I'm going to give it a minute or two to come back. Next, close this configuration dialog and again go to Administrative Tools, and in this time, instead of Server Configuration, go to AX 2012 Configuration. In this, in the configuration target, select Business Connector and go to the Developer tab, and there are two options here: enable user breakpoints to debug code in the Business Connector and enable global breakpoints. You want to make sure both these are checked. Again, I'm using the developer install, so these were automatically checked for me. If you don't have them checked, you can follow a similar process as before: create configuration, call it something like debug, and make sure those breakpoints are checked. Again, when you switch those settings, hit apply, OK to close that, and that should take care of the debug settings for you. One thing I forgot to mention was when you're running the configuration tools, make sure you run them as administrator. So if you're not already running as an administrator, right click and select run as administrator. Next, within the administrative tools, start services. In this, find the AOS service. It's called Microsoft Dynamics AX Object Server. And make sure that the logon as is set to the BC proxy user account. In my case, I'm using my own account as the BC proxy user account. It's recommended that you use a dedicated domain account for this purpose. Make sure that this AOS is running as a BC proxy user account. Once you've verified that, start your AX client again with administrative privileges. Once this comes up, start a development workspace. In here, go to Tools, Options. There's a section for development, and in here there's a section for debug. In the debug mode, make sure it's set to when breakpoint. If it's set to no, switch it to when breakpoint. Again, I'm using a developer install, so all these settings are done for me. Otherwise, you would have to make these yourself. Close this, and now we are ready to debug X++ code. So in my case, I want to debug the FM rental helper class. So I'm going to open it up. I can see my methods in here. Let's say I want to set a breakpoint right here. Before that, you can go to Tools, Debugger, open up the X++ debugger, go set the breakpoint, and now if I go here and refresh this page, that proxy code will call that X++ method, and we should see the breakpoint being hit. So I'm going to close this and click on it to open it up again. And there you go, you see the breakpoint was hit. I can see and debug just as I would any other X++ code. So I can see the details about the variables, I can set breakpoints and do other things in here as well. In this video, we saw how Enterprise Portal simplifies debugging by providing a developer installation type. This automatically enables the settings required for debugging. If you want to debug on a different installation type, we saw the configuration steps required. And finally, we saw how you can get a rich debugging experience in Enterprise Portal for both managed and X++ code. Thanks for watching. Please join us again for the next topic.